welcome to the Circles and Squares news report for Monday, December 6th, 2021. I'm James, and joining me, as always, is the esteemed host of the Circles and Squares Extra podcast. It's Katie. How are you, Kate?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. You know, I'm actually thinking like this is a wonderful title I've got going on, but I think maybe we need a little more extra episodes under our belt if I want to be called an esteemed host.
I agree. We'll work on that. You know, I think we've got some cool ideas, maybe involving, you know, a tier list of certain lost characters and maybe how we would rank them potentially as an idea for one of those shows coming up. So maybe we can look out for that in the future.
That's right. Keep an eye out to see how well your favorite character does, Henry Gale, and how he is going to top the lost list.
That's right. How are you, Kate? Though, good week. I've been hanging out. Or?
Yeah, it's been a good week. My cat got his cone off on Friday.
Congratulations,
all
Neville.
Cleared up from his surgery, and oh boy, has he gone back to being a little monster now that his cone is not weighing him down.
Back to the cone of shame is gone, and he's back to his normal self.
Yeah, you know, I didn't throw it out, so you know, maybe that'll be a please behave yourself kind of threat that goes on in the house.
Don't scratch me again, or it's coming back.
Exactly, but other than that, it's good. I've you know, everything's on fire with finals for school, but 2 more weeks, and I've got a little Christmas vacation, which means I'm just working more than I'm normally working, so it's not a vacation, but it'll feel like a vacation. Maybe.
Oh, Christmas always does. We're looking forward to Christmas. That's
always.
Good news, though, Kate. And we have a lot more news to discuss on the show today as well, because like I said, this is the Circles and Squares news report, where we're going to cover the latest PlayStation news from the last couple of weeks, and then get into some out-of-town news as well from different stuff in the gaming sphere. And then, of course, we'll close the show out with a feel-good story, as we usually do on this show. So we'll get right into the PlayStation news for the last couple of weeks to start off. And the first story we have is the PlayStation Plus games for December have been announced. We have Godfall, the Challenger Edition, Lego DC Supervillains, and Mortal Shell, which is, I think this is a pretty standout month, honestly. I don't think there's really a weak game in the crew to start off. Is there anything that's jumping out at you?
Yeah, absolutely. This week is my week. I'm so excited. Mortal Shell. So I didn't end up buying any games on some of those Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales. I just figured, like, you know, and I got so many other things going on, and I've got such a huge backlist. I'm not gonna do the sale this year. But the one game I did strongly consider, and it hovered in my cart for a little bit before I had the Zen moment of you don't need to buy this, was actually Mortal Shell. And I'm so pleased for the universe rewarding my patience and letting me play it on PS5 for free. But yeah,
absolutely.
This game looks really neat. I like the spin on the Souls genre. It's been on my list ever since it got announced, so I am very excited to play this game.
Yeah, that's always so lucky, hey, when it happens like that and you don't have to spend money, like you're planning to get something and then it just shows up on PS Plus and you're like, well, okay, I guess I won't. I had kind of a similar experience. Like the Lego games go on such cheap sales, and they're the kind of thing that's like fun to play for a weekend. And so like I've seen DC villains in like reasonable prices. I'll probably check that out a little bit, but I mean, I'm excited to try Godfall. I know it's got kind of some mixed reviews and there's some criticism of like, oh, the story is kind of thin and whatnot, but the combat looks like legitimately pretty fun, and the fact that it's co-op and coming out, like I definitely have some plans to play this and at least check it out, even though I know you told me it's not really the full version of the game is the Challenger Edition.
Yeah, so I haven't looked into it too much, but I have heard that, the Challenger Edition, it's like a few different game modes that are some like end game content. So that's kind of cool, and I guess in the way that like you really get to try out the full potential of the game, and it doesn't just make you start out like a total new character. So maybe if that's appealing, then that's a good like, you know, bridging point to wanting to get the game and build up a character and like, you know, make it to those final like options. But this game was one that I've always kind of had my eye on because I think it could be neat. Like the looter genre kind of game is something I don't normally get into because of the gameplay, but I think like I understand totally why they're so addicting. And I really like the idea of, you know, like the melee focused game. The visuals were like super polished and like weirdly shiny and like just kind of had this weird and really like different kind of vibe to it. But I've heard that, you know, there's some mixed reviews. People say that like it's fun, but there just isn't enough content. So we'll see if
Yeah.
it's maybe one of those kind of like, everybody blasted Destiny 2 when it was new, and now everybody loves that game. So I think it's just one of those things that this genre takes like 2 years to kind of just like become a, like a worthwhile purchase maybe. So
Yeah. I mean, the difference with Godfall, I mean, I don't know much about the game, but compared to Destiny, like Destiny is meant to live for so long. I'm worried that
yeah.
this game maybe, is not going to get a whole lot more content. And that's why they're sort of putting this together and seeing if they can get people to buy the full version by giving them some of this content. But at the same time, it's a cool way to try something out. And you're right, like get your feet wet. Do I enjoy this enough to actually want to buy the full version? And do I see myself getting into it? Like, we'll see. It's a good tester if anything else, but cool nonetheless. Like, I'm glad that they're offering the PS4 and PS5 as well, just because I mean, I have some friends that don't have PS5s yet. Obviously everyone does, and it's nice to be able to still include them with something that's multiplayer focused like that. So I think it's a good month for PS Plus, like we said, and we will definitely talk about some of these on the upcoming show next week, on next Monday, a week from today, when you're listening to this, of course. Hey, next story we have here is actually PS Plus adjacent. So we can talk about this, I guess, in tandem, which is that there's a lot of rumors coming out that Sony is set to combine PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now into like one combined service. And so we've got some details about it, but again, keep in mind that this is, I think, mostly speculation and rumors right now. But from what we've kind of seen, and it's been reported on a few different sites, I think Bloomberg was the first that kind of had the scoop on it. But supposedly next spring, early in the year, PlayStation's planning to do some combination of PS Plus and PlayStation Now into like a one price subscription service, similar to like a Game Pass situation, or at least that's, I guess, how it's being reported, as more of a Game Pass competitor, codenamed Spartacus. And I think that the prevalent rumor right now is that it's going to be a tiered system. So the first tier would be similar to exactly what PlayStation Plus is right now. The second tier would then be have access to, I believe, like a larger library of games coming out, like current kind of games. And then the highest tier would have some extended legacy titles like PlayStation 1, 2, 3, and PSP games, although not Vita, which is interesting. Although, like I said, nothing's really confirmed on any of this, but it seems like an interesting idea. And I know like amalgamating those two services is something that people have kind of speculated on and wanted for a while. I think it was even one of our predictions on our prediction show last year for the upcoming for what would have been this year, I guess. But interesting news nonetheless. And yeah, I mean, what do you feel? What are your thoughts, impressions?
Yeah, I feel like it's just kind of like such a natural way to merge the two and to progress it. Like with the success of Game Pass, it's definitely one of those questions that people have had of Sony of like, like, will you do something similar? Like, can we please have this? This is amazing. Like, this is kind of the reason to own an Xbox for a lot of people, right? And so it makes sense. It's something that people would want. I really appreciate the idea of the tiered service because I'm not sure if it's something that I would get or would want to get right away. And it would feel really shitty to have to like, like I pay for my PS Plus subscription. I like that. I think that's like, sometimes I play some of the games and like it's exciting to get free stuff every now and again. But like, I don't really want like having a huge library for me. I'm the kind of person that tends to like want to play a game and play it all the way through and like play less things, but more of them versus like picking up a new game for a couple hours, so like the massive library of games that I will never play doesn't appeal to me quite as much. And so
sure.
I like that there's not going to be assuming that this is true, that there's not a pressure to have to like have both. But I like that, there's definitely options for everyone. I think it'd be really cool to be able to like fluctuate, like even just for a month, I want to go up to the third tier because I just want to like check out some of the old games, but just for a month and then go back down to tier 2 or 1 or whatever. So
yeah, that would be nice. I'm interested to see kind of what comes out in like the pricing, because like the tiers, like you say, I think that is an interesting way to do it. Like with Game Pass, they have tiers as well, as you can kind of have like console or PC or play one slightly higher price and get all of it. But this is, you get the same games mostly no matter what. Whereas this is kind of like, what size of library do you want? Which is an interesting proposition. I mean, it reminds me of the Nintendo changes to their online service they recently made too, adding the Genesis and the N64, and kind of how I think what it comes down to is pricing, right? Like the Nintendo service, I feel, for what they're giving us is quite expensive, especially since the games are a lot more dated. Whereas in this, the second tier supposedly is going to be PlayStation 4 games with maybe some PS5 games as well. And at least those games are a lot newer. So depending on, you know, how much more expensive the tiers are, I think that would come down to it too.
Ironically,
because
like, for the price, like they're definitely newer, but they're like less expensive if you wanted to buy them, right? Like think of like any
Yeah,
PS4 game wanting to buy that versus like finding like SNES games. Like,
yeah, right. It's
yeah.
impossible. It's interesting though. The other thing too is like I wonder like if this is going to be something that PlayStation users really want, because a lot of people I feel that are already into the subscription type of stuff, like they may already kind of be involved with Game Pass. So I wonder like how many people with Game Pass being so well established and gets tons of indies, you know, there's just a huge user base on that. And I know like people get really comfortable with kind of what they already use. And so it'd be interesting to see kind of how this could take on something that people know so well as Game Pass, right? Like what will this look like? It's already being known kind of as like PlayStation's Game Pass. So that's already like they are already working under the guise of like being related to the big brother of this type of service. So it's interesting.
Yeah. That's true. I could see this being really big for the people that were like having to choose between the two. Like I know like a lot of the big like, oh, what console I get? Will I get PlayStation for the exclusives, or will I get Xbox because Game Pass is amazing? And so this is very convenient for anyone who either made the PlayStation choice or hasn't yet made the choice. And like, oh, well, now I can kind of have both. And like, sure, you miss out on Forza and Halo and like, you know, some, you know, maybe some new Bethesda games coming out in the future. But it kind of like takes one of those big checkboxes that Xbox is currently having exclusively and taking it now, applying it to Sony, assuming that they have like the same kind of quality in the service.
Well, that's the interesting part, though. That's what I was going to say is from everything that I've read on this, and this, I'm referencing from the Push Square article. Like that's what we're using just to chat over here. But I've done some other reading on it from other sources and whatnot. And I think one of the big downfalls of this service is that I haven't seen any indication. And again, this is rumors as well. It may be the case, but I have not seen any indication or anyone pointing to the fact that there will be any of the first party like PlayStation Studios games on this service. And that's something that's like the icing on top of the cake with Game Pass, is that you do get Halo, you do get Forza. They bought Bethesda, they bought all these other like they have so many publishers, and you're getting the first party games as well. It's a tougher sell on PlayStation when you're expected to spend $80 a pop on their first party games, as well as a subscription service for more games. Like the value in Game Pass is so multifaceted, whereas I don't know how inclined I would be to up my PlayStation Plus, which is already $60 a year, to play more older games and then still have to buy the exclusives on top of it. Like it's a lot of money people are, you know, potentially going to be spending on this type of stuff.
Yeah, that is very true. And I think it is going to come down to that, right? Like at the end of the day, like it doesn't matter how many tiers you've got or like, you know, what kind of, you know, great marketing you have. It always comes down to the content, right? It's like, what is on there? What am I paying for? What is the value? Additionally, if you're paying $60 for PS Plus, get out of here, because that shit goes on sale all the time.
Right.
I don't think I've ever paid a month full price of PS Plus. So keep your eyes out. If you're doing it, you're doing something wrong.
That's true, especially now. There's all kinds of deals out there now.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, there was a good Black Friday one I got, I think, a year for like $40. So that was awesome.
Yeah, it's a good deal.
But yeah, keep an eye out for those. Maybe, I hope that there's great sales on this as well. That would be lovely.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. Like this timeline is pretty advanced though. Like if this really is coming in spring 2022, like we're going to have to see some news about this in the next state of play that comes out, or, you know, early in January. Like we're going to have to see something soon. So I'm sure we'll be talking about this again.
I could see them doing a big thing after Christmas, right? Like leading up to Christmas, you want like, here are all the games you can buy for Christmas. This is big stuff current. And then afterwards, I think maybe sometime in January, like, yeah, we might get some big details about this. And I hope it's true, because this has the potential to be a really user-friendly service. And I know just based off of how much people love and praise, you know, Game Pass, which is always what it's going to be compared to. So I hope they do like the same kind of job, and, you know, that'd be great. Sony needs a little bit of some like PR, I think sometimes. Sometimes
think they
they
do
can be a
too.
little stingy. We love them. They make wonderful games, and they have amazing creative development teams, but sometimes, they can be the last to the cross platform parties and that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, I know they could really use a win like this, and at the same time though, I hope it's not an opposite situation where this could be some really negative PR too. Like what if they come out and it's like, Game Pass is $20 a month. What if this is like $30 a month and offers less? And then it looks, there could be some bad articles about that being like Sony's charging more for less and like, trying to rip off their customers, stuff like that. So hopefully not. I mean, you'd have to think they're smarter, right? Well, we'll see. I mean,
You'd
it's gonna
hope
be
so.
it's gonna be soon that this will all be resolved. Apparently, judging by this timeline. So again, rumors can be false. Like there was lots of rumors of the 4K Switch, for example. Nothing to be seen on that. So obviously this isn't confirmed, but it's an interesting talking point to say the least. And yeah, I guess we'll wait and see more. But Kate, that's actually surprisingly, although maybe not surprisingly, that's all the PlayStation news we have for this week. Two big pieces of news though. So let's move to the out of town scoreboard for some out of town game news, which will stay on the rumor train though. We will keep that thread going. There has been some leaks apparently from a Resident Evil 4 remake coming out, as there was some images being spread of a character, Albert Wesker. He's one of the well-known Final Fantasy, or why am I saying Final Fantasy? Well-known Resident Evil 4 characters, and there's some images of him kind of being up-res, like a new screenshot that I guess would be for a remake of that game. And obviously there's been a lot of talk about a Resident Evil 4 remake in the works anyway, just with the success of 3 and 2 being remade over the last few years. So what do you think? Do you think this is real? Is this something that would excite you? I know you've played a lot of Resident Evil lately, and 4 is supposedly one of the best in the series, if not one of the best games ever, according to the internet. So what does this do for you?
So I'm pretty excited. I have a running joke with my friends who I play Resident Evil with that I don't know anything about Resident Evil, because every single time I think of something from Resident Evil 2, I think it's Resident Evil 4, and I just have them like both of those are the same game in my mind. And so we were actually talking the other day about starting a new Resident Evil. It's like, oh, we'll play the 4 remake. It's going to be awesome. And they're like, what do you mean? They're like, oh, it's 2. And I'm like, yeah, it's the one with this guy. And it's like, they're like so amalgamated in my mind. So I definitely have to get playing 2 because it's like a whole game I don't know exists apparently. But I would like to work my way to 4. I think they're just like such a fun campy time to play with friends, and this is supposed to be the big one, so I don't see why not. Like
Supposed to be
2 and 3 were magnificent. Like Village has had so much hype. It's on all the game of the year lists, and like Resident Evil just can't seem to do wrong right now. I don't see why you wouldn't keep running the gambit and put the next one out.
Yeah, exactly, right? I mean, they've had nothing but success. The only thing I would say is I hope they're not, cranking them out too quickly and not putting in the care. But I mean, we don't have anything to go on for that. The 2 and 3 remakes have been great. Like, there's no reason to think they would suddenly, screw up like the GTA Trilogy or something on this one. We'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, I mean, exciting stuff. And related to that, we have another rumor. Would you kindly listen to this story, Kate? There is a rumor about a Bioshock Isolation being in development as well, or being shown off. There's another, a rumored logo, I guess, had come out for this one. Similar lines as before. Anything was supposed to be revealed, but apparently the announcement for a Bioshock Isolation is coming early next year as well. So start the rumor train on that one. Of course, this would get me a lot more excited than a Resident Evil type of thing, like Bioshock. Although I've only played the first one, like Bioshock 1, incredible game, love the atmosphere. I'm embarrassed, honestly, I haven't played Infinite and the second one, but you only have so much time to go into the backlog. This would do a lot for me, though, for sure. And I mean, will we see it at the Game Awards? That's a good question. Both of these really could be at the Game Awards as a new trailer. There's always a lot of stuff shown off there. So, yeah, Bioshock Isolation. How are you feeling?
Yeah, that would be really exciting. Bioshock is one of my all-time favorite games. I absolutely adore the original Bioshock. I played through some of 2, but I never ended up finishing it. And what's the third game? I'm having a total blank on the name.
It's Infinite, right?
Yeah, Bioshock Infinite. So that one I've owned. I bought it when I bought the original Bioshock, but my computer at the time couldn't run it. So I bought it as like a package and was always like, I'm going to run through this eventually. And I definitely have the computer for it now, but But this might be a good kick in the pants to go back. Maybe that's a good speakers game. Guys, let me know. Does it have really good sound design? Is it very pretty in the music department? Maybe I'll play that on my nice, beautiful new speakers and be set up in case isolation turns out to be right.
Let's hope so. That would be a great first experience on the speakers. So, let's cross our fingers for that. Although, you know what? I mean, even if it's announced, it's not going to be out for a while. You're going to have to probably pick something else.
No,
let's be honest.
we're not waiting. We can't wait around for this. I have played some other games, to be fair, but I was hoping for like a big game to really just like immerse in a world. So, yeah.
Well, if you're looking for a big game, Kate, you could always look into the GTA Trilogy, which came out recently. And speaking of a big game, obviously that's 3 games, there's also a big ass list of more than 100 bugs that have been fixed. Since last time we talked about this on the news show, we were reporting how we were reading reports of how the GTA Trilogy was just absolutely screwed up with so many glitches, it was like nearly unplayable. And so now we have an updated list of this big patch that's come out. And to be fair, I mean, it looks like they fixed a lot of stuff. Like this must be so much more playable now. But just looking through, like scrolling through this list, the article they have it on Gamespot.com by Eddie McCutch. Sorry, Eddie.
Sorry, Eddie.
The list that he's put out here of all the errors that have been fixed in this game, like man, oh man, people must have been really struggling. Like there's one where like a guy's hands were fixed being inside. There's a number of places, like I'm just scrolling through it right now, and it's like fixed a problem where the rain could be seen inside. Fixed a problem where the grass could be seen inside. Fixed an issue where the rain appears to be underwater when falling. Fixed an issue where grass could be seen in Joey's garage during the outro of a mission, Drive Misty. Like there's just, did this game go through QA of any kind? Like there's also things where they fixed like misaligned text and typos in certain things. Like that's the kind of thing you gotta catch.
Tons
you gotta
of
catch
typos, which I was really shocked by. But yeah, this list is genuinely like it's unfortunate that it got released in this state, but this list is an absolute treasure trove of just fantastic things. Like my 2 personal favorites here are fixed an issue where CJ appeared too dark when in the 69-cent store. So like what happens to his character model? Just like the weirdest lighting in the store. And then my other personal favorite, fixed an issue where haircuts would be swapped out with the Caesar haircut anytime CJ wore a hat. So you'd put a hat on, you'd take it off, and your haircut would be different. And I just imagine like those are the kind of glitches, or at least the hair one, like that's the kind of one where like I think genuinely like it shouldn't be in there. That is, not intentional. It is a negative thing, but I think would enhance my experience playing the game, because the first time that happened to you would be so funny. You're like, what happened to my hair? And then if you went back and like fixed your haircut and then it happened again, like that is an amazing like story. But there is like just an absolute laundry.
I mean,
it's
funny, right? Like any of these things kind of happening would be funny, and you understand to an extent that things will not be released, always in working order, and whether or not you agree with that, like it's just kind of where games are at these days because of the ability of patching and how easy it is to kind of get the public to do QA testing in some ways. Like it's the people finding these glitches, right? And then they'll fix them afterwards. But yeah, what's interesting about this story too, and I just wanted to bring up another article actually from Eddie at GameSpot again, and it kind of just really relates into this. And it was an interview, I guess, that they did with Take-Two's president earlier in the month. And I think it grinds my gears a little bit, Kate. Like obviously any company releasing video games, they're going to be in it for some level of profit, because the companies need to obviously pay their employees. Like that's just the way things work. But there was some quotes from Take-Two's president, and you can check the article out, I guess, if you want to see the full thing and not my paraphrasing. But essentially, they were very transparent. They just said, it's a purely economic decision which games do and don't get remastered, and we take into factors like what's the development time and cost going to be, and how much profit is it going to make us. And it's really blunt to say something like that. And I guess like I said, like every business has some type of balance they have to keep, but Take-Two is so known for microtransactions, and the saying this stuff is not a surprise, but it just makes me think, like, was the sentiment people love GTA, if we put these games together, and who cares if they're good quality because people will just buy them anyway, and a lot of people just know the name GTA and they'll just buy it, and who cares if it's got glitches, we can patch them in later, let's just put this out and make our profit. Where I feel like a lot of other companies and different studios would have more of a like, we're going to release this with some glitches, but we're gonna, put out a better product to actually make our consumers feel like it's worth the price. And it's just something about this is so dirty to me, like it just seems like you're really doing your fans a disservice, because people love GTA and they get this like bad quality remaster, at least at the start, and they're paying full price. And it's just like, why are you trying to take advantage of your customers like that? I really get the sense that it's one of those situations where Take-Two just doesn't care as long as they're making profit.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
If it was someone else who'd said something like that, like, there's kind of an element of like, yeah, it's blunt and it's not really the best like marketing choice, and like, it's kind of seems a bit shady. But like, if someone else had said it, it's like, maybe there's a little bit of respect for being like, you know what, you're honest. Like, of course it comes down to like, what's gonna make money, and yeah, as a business you can't choose to make decisions just because you think the game's great and no one's gonna buy it. So like, of course, like, it is kind of like, sometimes some transparency is nice, right? And like, like, if they'd said something else, it would have maybe sounded manipulative in comparison. But then they're like also the most like mustache twirling like villains at the same time. So it's like, it's hard to take
Exactly.
it at face value of like, oh, that's good transparency, instead just like, no, like, you're just like a super villain, and like you're not even trying to hide it anymore. So
that's pretty much what it is, though, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of other companies, they would be like, obviously financials work into it, but we want to make our fans happy. We want our fans to have a good experience. Like, I feel like that's the press release that would come from most companies. Think of most others, but the first sentence, the first quote from this guy in the article is, "It is purely an economic decision."
Right?
Like, that's the first thing he said, and it's like, how can you have any idea? Like, this guy doesn't care about you. He doesn't care if you actually enjoy the game.
And if you're gonna put out like a good quality remake, like, fine, like, transaction made, like, you produce something I like, I will buy it from you. That's how this works. That is our relationship. But like, then they put out this like laundry list of like, why is CJ so dark when he goes in the 69-cent store? Like, you're gonna tell me this is a fair transaction? And like, like, put out a product that works. And if it's all about money and like you want to make money, then give the product that you say you're making, right? Like, if you want this to be purely cut and dry, like it's just a transaction, then that is your job. That's your end of it. Like, you're an asshole. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, go to the store and like try on a pair of pants and like, oh, they have 6 holes in them, but you said that they were a nice pair of pants, so I'm gonna buy them. Like, no. Like, when you buy a video game, you don't have the luxury of like testing out the product ahead of time, or like you're buying it on the faith that they've created the product they said that they've created and shown off in their trailers and in their marketing. And so like,
sure. And just that they're going to have put that level of standard in there too, right?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, like we said, you're not going to catch every glitch, especially things that don't happen often. Like, maybe there's a specific scenario where you have a certain haircut, you put your hat on, and then afterwards that one haircut changes because of some glitch that doesn't happen often. But when there's a glitch, like, grass is just visible inside this guy's garage, like, that's, you're going to enter the garage at some point for a mission. Like, everybody's going to do that. How did your QA team not catch that? Like, it must be like a clear,
or it's very much like the QA team did catch it, and then they're like, we don't have time to fix it. Yeah, it's got to be released next weekend, and the grass is not our highest priority. We'll fix it later.
Yeah, that's true. Just the unplayable rain that completely blocks your view and makes some of the games just impossible. Interesting stuff. I don't know. 2K. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, Kata, that's going to actually close us out for our main news stories this week. Although we do have our one singular feel-good story left. And this one's actually brand new. Like, you just linked me to this. It was from like yesterday. And this one is like, wow. So the Animal Crossing New Horizons Happy Home Paradise DLC just got released as part of the Nintendo Online update. And interestingly enough, Kate, there's a glitch happening to a number of people where a lot of the animals on the island are just not wearing clothes. And, in the context of animals, that's fine. But in Animal Crossing, where animals usually are wearing clothes and, you give them little presents like, oh, I love it so much. And they like twirl around, put on their new clothes. All these animals are like walking around naked now. And it's just a little weird.
That's right. The DLC has created a nudist colony within Animal Crossing. And I mean, it's such a harmless glitch, right? Because it's like, oh, it's a bunny, it's a duck. Like, like there's nothing like scandalous about seeing a bunny walking around. It's not like they have genitals or like anything weird.
Yeah.
It's just like totally like a bunny would be in any other game. But it's funny because, yeah, the context of Animal Crossing. And my personal favorite part of this is like all the people posting like the glitch that they've seen on like, you know, like websites like Reddit and stuff. But they're posting it with like not safe for work tags because because the pretext is that like they're naked. But like then you open the picture and it's just this cute duck.
Yeah.
And it is hilarious.
I think what's ironic about this too is like, isn't KK Slider the dog, the main kind of animal in Animal Crossing? Like he's the only one that doesn't normally wear clothes, I'm pretty sure. So I think everyone's just kind of like following his footsteps now. He's finally taken over the Animal Crossing universe as like the idol.
That's right. Yeah, his celebrity fame status has just skyrocketed so hard. That is a good point. He doesn't wear clothes. Why does everyone else have to wear clothes and he doesn't? Is it because he always has his guitar conveniently placed in front of him?
Yeah.
You know, it's like that Jackie Chan. I don't know if you've seen. I can't remember what movie it's from, but it's that like one of those famous Jackie Chan fight scenes, and he's like naked, and so he keeps having to like conveniently like he's got a plate, and then he's like behind something else, and he's like you know behind
it's
a
like
basket.
That Family Guy episode too. There's a family where like the Nudist family moves in next door, and they like always are conveniently holding like super soaker water guns.
Yeah.
Or, like, whatever it is.
That's right. And yeah, so the fight and like the commentary in that fight is like, why are the villains just trying to make him naked instead of beating him up? Like, it's super funny, but it's basically
awesome.
this. So that's KK Slider. He's got that guitar always with him, but all the other villagers, you know, they don't have this excuse, and you know, it's really changed how Animal Crossing must feel to play.
Animal Crossing Nude Horizons is what they're
Nude
gonna call
Horizons. I love it. I don't think that you as the player are allowed to go nude though. So
no, that's the
maybe,
thing. That the human players still keep their clothes. So I mean, Nintendo's fine. They're covered, you know, legally and no
and physically
weird human
on
nudism.
their characters.
Yeah, physically. Oh man, that's going to close us out for the show, Kate. As always, thank you for joining me on this esteemed episode of the Circles and Squares News Report. If you have any funny news stories that you've come across and would like to share them with us, or if you have any questions or comments like about any of the news we've reported on, or you know, just something you'd like to share with us, we're just saying like. Send it over circlesandsquarespod@gmail.com or reply to us in the comments of the video or on Twitter, anything like that. We'd love to hear from you, and send in some questions for our listener mail segment on the main show as well, which will be out again next Monday. We're always looking for fun questions, comments, stories, anything you want to send us. We're happy to read it on the show and we'll respond to it. So definitely get in on that. But Kate, until next Monday on the Circles and Squares podcast, it's been a pleasure to see you, and we'll see all of our beautiful listeners very soon.